Morning to you. Today is Monday, the 22nd of June, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. This week, I want to make a practical use of the advisory board model, not a theoretical one, not a corporate one. We don't want to go into complexity of corporate, particularly when companies have 50 employees, 10 million revenues. So it's not a full boardroom language either. This is simplified to understand actually how these large corporations work and these principles that can be applied to any board today, to any company size. So it's very practical. Last week, if you remember, I spoke about how to put an advisory board together, right? So what to look into, what will be the key things you have to look to put an advisory board together, and how to make it work. And when somebody like you, like a founder growing your business, the first instinct is often to push harder, right? So when you want to put an advisory board together, you want to understand how you're going to do it. So today we are going to have, this week particularly, we are going to have a different view, a view of what makes things work as the building the assets of the company, the things that actually, regardless of who is managing this, the company will keep moving forward. So push harder, what I mean is actually you want more sales, more campaigns, more people, more meetings, targets, more hours. But at first, this is very exhausting, or might be exciting at the beginning, but then it starts to get exhausting. And that works for a period of time. But actually, you know what is better, a strategic move here? Assets. Because after a point, more effort start to create what is called more weight. So things start to get heavier to do. So the business becomes busier, but not always or necessarily stronger. So that is where the advisory board operating systems model helps. And it's a model that we have in front of us. So at the center, you have the advisory board operating systems, and around you have the 4 milestones. So at the top, you have the scaling, on the right, your predictability, on the bottom, you have your systems, and on the left is their edge, or your edge, where you have your innovation, your transformation, what makes your company relevant, not only today, but also for the future. So the advisory board's job is to help you as a founder and your leadership team to see the whole business, not one noisy problem at the time that usually seems to be the case. So the system is everything happening, or any business actually, is everything happening at the same time right now. But people see what is the next problem that is coming next, right? For example, I'm guessing, and not because somebody told me, but actually probably you are in this stage now, that today is 22nd of June. Next week, 30th of June will be month end and quarter end. So guess what? Probably many teams at this point, they are looking into sales splits. So let's go, everybody, all hands on deck. Everybody go to sell 1 week before quarter end and month end, because everybody need to hit quota. Let me guess what is going on here. Probably it's a bad planning, because if a month, or you started last week with the sales leads, if you started last week or this week, you already have a problem, because actually this had been started, or should have been started, or never been started if you have a proper system of selling, operating, delivering, collecting, etc., right? So when you see all these sales splits, all these massive efforts to get things done, etc., that is very exhausting, very stressful, a lot of anxiety, uncertainty. Are we going to close? Are we not going to close? Are we going to get it or not? And you're counting the percentage of the achievement in a kind of a temperature thermometer. So I've been doing that for many years. Is because the business itself is not very well structured. It's a problem. Now, we're not going to get in that point, but actually, let's take a look at problem when you're looking from the assets point of view, because this is an asset issue, not an activity issue. Problem number one is that the business is still thinking too much in terms of sales and costs. So the leadership teams ask, how do we sell more? Or their finance team, how do we cut costs? Those are very valid questions, but they are incomplete. The stronger question is, what assets are we missing that will make this easier next time? When you say an asset, it could be a process, partnerships, uh, uh, your teams, you're developing a better distribution system, etc., etc. So those are kind of assets, not just all hands on deck trying to sell more for because we are at month end, quarter end. And guess what will happen there too? You are going into the crazy spiral, downward spiral of discounts. Bad idea, because you are putting your prices down because you need it, not because you value or anybody else value. So they see the value when they get a discount, probably they are waiting for this week to get you down in your price. Very bad idea. You're not playing with your assets, you're playing with pricing. And when you are playing with pricings, it's a commodity. Everybody can get you. Now, problem number two is growth that can hide weakness. And it's true, revenue may rise, the team grows, the brand gets stronger, but behind the scenes, you as a founder still gluing all together. You have to put all together all the time. So decisions still depend on memory. The sales story still sits in one person's head or one couple of people, and the team still needs workarounds to get things done. And this is very dangerous because the workarounds start to get normalized, you start to lose the view of what is wrong, because actually, oh, that's the way we do things here, right? Probably you heard that before. By the way, this is not exclusive for small or mid-sized enterprises. I've been in large enterprises that they said that this is a way that we do things around here, and it's a very dangerous thing to say. Anyway, problem number three is the advisory board is treated as just advice, not as an architecture of your organization. A few clever people give useful input, but there is no operating model, no rhythm, no clear link to scale, predictability, systems, or your relevance for the future, which is your edge. So the advice sounds good, but then fades. So nobody's responsible for that, and we discussed that last week too. So if you want to check the last week the streamings. So in other words, imagine your business as a building. So cells are rooms that people can see, but assets are all the other things: the wire, the plumbing, the foundation, the load-bearing walls. If you only decorate the rooms, the building might look better for a while. But if the foundations are weak, you are going to feel that pressure when the walls start to crack. You start to feel that actually the edifice is not that safe as it should be, and there's a lot of danger signals there that you say, well, what is going on here? Probably we should be better somewhere else, and that is not a nice place to be. So as a board advisor, what I would propose to consider is the following: use the advisory board as to ask a better class of questions. And for example, not just asking how do we grow, right? Ask this other question: what needs to become an asset, right? It's a better question. If your brand only works when you as the founder speaks, then it's an asset gap. If your sales processes only works when one senior person rescued it, the sale, because they need an escalation, need to talk to your manager, whatever is the case, that is also an asset gap, because your team is not empowered enough to make the business decision to close sales. So if your numbers are only trusted after someone manually cleans them up, that is another asset gap. It's a financial asset gap, because actually you don't have the robust system that actually out as far as possible automate those numbers in a way that actually when you see the dashboard, you can rely on these numbers. So if your business cannot explain its method clearly, also, that's another asset gap. That's intellectual property. So the advisory board brings outside judgment to those gaps. It helps the business stop blaming people for problems that are caused by missing systems, for example. It could be software or workflows or standard operation procedures. Could be missing tools. So you don't have the right CRM, you don't have the right servers, you don't have the right machinery, whatever is the case. Or documentation, because the paperwork is so scattered with so many people that actually at the end, which is the right documentation to present when and to whom. Or missing IPs, because intellectual property is diluted. So it's not clearly established what is a value proposition for your customer, because nobody else do these things the way that you do it, right? So, or the same with data or structure, etc., etc. So that is why the advisory board operating system starts with the whole model. So we start with this model because then we can see the whole business in a snapshot today, how it's operating and where we can find the gap. So the scaling portion is about your brand, your people, your partnership. So we can understand what is going on there. In the same way, the predictability is about your partnerships again, and your revenues and your assets, your intellectual property, your tangibles, your intangibles. In terms of the system, it's not just the software and hardware, it's also the governance, risk, and compliance and the performances, plus your assets, tangibles and intangibles. And in terms of your edge, your transformation, your innovation, your relevancy to current markets and future markets is how you perform, what strategy you're using, and obviously your brand. So when those four big milestones together are put together, the business become less fragile. It starts becoming an enterprise, not just a busy company, right? Okay, so what do you gain working with me? Three things: business outcomes, differentiators, and risk reductions. In terms of business outcome, is a clearer business. You see what is causing the pressure, in which assets needs to be built first, or which are the assets that need to build first. In terms of differentiator, is the advisory board model. You get access to an international advisory board, faster implementation than hiring one executive, lower overhead than a big consulting firm, no talent locked in, and the ability to swap members every 6 months as your priorities changes. Because if you are addressing your scaling issues, when you have that nailed down, then you move into predictability. So you want a better revenue, you want a better, more predictable revenue, you want your IPs monetized, etc. You need a different set of skills there to work with your company. So when we can swap members specifically to address those issues and move you faster with a better thinking, a better experience, better capacities. And obviously that reduces the risk of you as a founder as a dependency. If the business needs the founder, you, in every major decision, it is not yet an asset-led business, right? So the advisory board helps turn personal know-how into business capability. Now, one action you can take home today, and it's doable in 30 minutes or less. Take one current business problem and ask this question: is this a people problem or it's an asset problem, right? So it's one business problem, and ask this question again: is this a people problem or an asset problem? And then write down your missing asset if it's an asset problem. This, it might be a playbook, a dashboard, a scorecard, a product ladder, a training process, a partner map, a clear method of control. It could be anything, but these are the assets that you need to start to put together to make your business more robust. So the answer also is helping you to bring it to the first advisory board meeting or the next advisory board meeting to address this situation. We have a people problem or an asset problem, and here it is, the answer that I came up with, how we can find solutions for this. So let's pause here for today and reconvene tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to go very specifically on scaling. Yeah, we will look at why adding people is not the same as scaling, and why brand, people, and partnerships must stop depending on you as the founder. Now, if you are leading a company of 50 employees or more than 10 million revenue, and you want to build an advisory board operating system that helps you scale, improve predictability, strengthen your controls, and protect your value, let's have a 30-minute call, because I would love to understand where you're coming from, where you are today, where you like to go. And how we can design together an advisory board that brings you 25% revenue increases and 18% more productivity, with faster implementation than a hiring one executive, with lower overhead than a big consulting firm, no talent locked in, and swappable members every 6 months. So have a great day, and I'll